Star Wars Geek Girl. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.
Hello. Oh, am I doing the intro?
You're going to be the host, but just starting out.
Okay. Hello. Welcome to Star Wars Geek Girl. I'm Zoe. I'm here with my dad.
Hello. I don't know if I'm forcing Zoe, but I'm encouraging Zoe to do this small episode without Lizzy, because Lizzy was busy and they're doing one tomorrow. So we thought we would do a special episode for February 7th, which is Star Wars Podcast Day. Right?
Yep.
And Star Wars Podcast Day, actually, it's 2 months away from Celebration this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just thought we'd do a short one if someone wanted to try out and hear about Star Wars Geek Girl. And I figured I'd just ask you questions and we can give a 10, 15-minute episode about Star Wars Geek Girl for those that haven't tried it out. So let's start at the beginning. When did you start liking Star Wars?
When I start liking Star Wars, I don't even remember. Because Star Wars is kind of always there. You know, you showed me the movies and stuff, the first 6. I was too little to remember seeing them for the first time. But I just kind of always liked Star Wars.
So the podcast started when?
2015, fall 2015. So right before Force Awakens came out, but during early Rebels. In like August, September.
Yeah. And Lizzy, who's not here tonight, you met her because of what?
Because of the podcast, because I had a Sabine costume and she's part of the Rogue Rebels family. And they all do the Rebels from Rebels. And she had Sabine, who was about the same age, about 14-ish then. And so she came on the podcast initially as a guest, but then just stuck around.
Right, because I think you guys were talking like for 4 hours, I think, the first time.
Yeah, our first, and the first 2 hours, or the second 2 hours wasn't even the podcast anymore. We were just talking.
Right. And so my question is, so if someone wants to tune in and give us some highlights that you remember, because I know what I remember, but what do you remember from, so this is year 8 of your podcast.
Yes.
Year 8. And you're on episode, and I think you're in the 260s maybe, because you guys skipped some because of school and all that. So, but you try to do it weekly most of the time.
Yeah.
What are some highlights that, like, if someone said, give us 5 highlights, not necessarily the best moments, but 5 things that come to mind over the 8 years of podcasting?
I mean, I guess the big one was Vanessa Marshall, who was like our first big Star Wars actor guest. And getting to talk to her was super cool, and she's very nice.
Right, that was like in your first 6 or so episodes, wasn't it?
Yes, that was very, very early. Although we've podcasted again with her since. I think I really liked doing our first panel when we first met in person at Celebration Orlando. And
that's what was big about that panel. Like, for people that haven't listened, who have no clue who you guys are, what was some of the highlights of that panel?
Well, we got to talk to our friend Jonah was there also. I think Axel participated a little bit too.
Well, how was it big for you and Lizzy, for people that don't listen to the show?
Well, it was our first time meeting in person. I said that.
Okay. Well, because you live in Pennsylvania and she lives in California, so some people might not realize that.
Yes. Yeah. There's Freddie. I'm trying to think of other moments. I mean, we have a lot of great guests, you know.
And I'm not saying these are your top 5, just 5 things that come to mind.
I got to talk to Brendan Wayne recently, which was a very great one. And Convery, E.K. Johnston, tons more people not thinking of right now. A lot of cool people to talk to. I think a show that I really like, it's actually a not Star Wars show, but it was when Axel explained to Lizzie, Sal, and I, which Sal is Lizzie and Axel's dad, the plot of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is a bizarre anime.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
That was really fun. I still don't really get it, to be honest. But it was really fun. And trying to think of other ones.
That's cool. Yeah, because I was thinking of my 5, and I think the Celebration. And again, I'm not saying my top 5, just 5 when I think of. That's one of them. Celebration. You could lump all the Celebration panels in.
Yes.
The first one is definitely because we met Lizzie, with all the Celebration panels. And then I think it was Free Comic Book Day one year when you got to co-host Full of Sith.
Yes. I remember recording Full Sith was really fun. I also kicked myself over it because that was when the Solo was announced, and I said on that podcast, so it's out there on the internet, I was like, yeah, I don't really know why they're making the Han movie. Like, I don't really feel like any of that. And now Solo, I love Solo. It's one of my favorites. So I'm always like, oh, why'd you say that?
And then the Brendan Wayne one that's a really good one too.
Yes,
I think.
that one's very recent.
Yeah.
But he's so nice. That was very great. Anytime we record with Steel. Recording with Steel is fun every single time.
Steel would also be when you guys were teaching him what periwinkle was
oh yeah,
definitely a good answer. So if this is podcast, this is Star Wars Podcast Day. Is there anything looking back, like, is there anything you would have done differently starting out?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Now tell the people how different is podcasting nowadays compared to 8 years ago.
Well, it's easier to do it better, I think. Because when we first started, we did some podcasts where there was a microphone and then a laptop with Skype on it. Like just sitting, like not connected to each other, like just both sitting on the microphone recording me and the Skype call. And also, I don't know if Skype works better now. It did not then.
Skype
It was terrible.
I mean,
I'm sure it's better now. I haven't used it, but Skype would just die a lot. But now we have Restream, Clearfeed. We use Zoom most often on our podcast. There's a lot more options for better quality, easier. I mean, you could do a very high quality podcast then, but it was more expensive. Where now, if you have a decent pair of headphones and a computer, you can make your podcast sound pretty good.
So, if people want to find more about Star Wars Geek Girl, where can they go?
Well, you can go to starwarsgeekgirl.com. It's our website. I'm hoping to get back into it. Had a crazy semester in school and stuff, and then work. But I want to get back into doing more writing. There's a lot of writing on there about random Star Wars things. I also make quizzes sometimes. And there's book reviews of Star Wars books and just my Star Wars thoughts. And also the website has a little about page to learn about the podcast. You can listen to the podcast on the website. Instead of it's wherever you listen to your podcasts. There's a poll every month. On the website, there's lots of things on the website.
And then I also updated your Instagram because I know we had some issues with Instagram now before.
Yes.
And so I made Star Wars Geek Girl Pod Instagram.
Yes.
Which we haven't really started using yet, but
we'll figure it out.
SW Geek Girl, I think the email got changed or we lost the email or something like that. I forget whatever happened to that.
Yeah, something happened there.
So the joys of when we switched over to a better website, we forgot that we wouldn't have the old emails, I think is what happened.
Yeah, lots of weird, like the domain changing and all sorts of fun technology stuff.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to in 2023 for Star Wars Geek Girl?
I'm really excited to go to Celebration London. We weren't sure how Celebration London was going to look for us, but looking very good, and I'm excited. I've never even been. The only time I've been out of the country was Canada,
Right.
and we just went to Niagara Falls. So I don't know if that counts as much as like
Yeah.
going to London. Even though we won't be sightseeing London, we'll be Star Warsing in London. But I'm
And
so
Lizzy's going,
excited.
more than likely.
Yes,
So
possibly
this will be your first podcast together live
in a while.
on the stage since Orlando. I
Yeah.
mean, you've done some together live, but you haven't done
Yeah,
some.
because it was with Axel in Anaheim. That's crazy. Yes, super exciting. Yeah, we'll be on the podcast stage in London. I'm not sure which day we'll be there. They haven't released that schedule yet. But I'm very excited to talk about Star Wars. It's always fun talking about Star Wars at Celebration with an audience and everything, and I'm excited to see people I know and people I don't know. What else? 2023. The Ahsoka series comes out, and Visions Volume 2. Lots of good Star Wars to look forward to and talk about this year.
And also, in a couple weeks, it's going to be a 3-year anniversary for you.
3 years?
Do you know what it is?
Oh, of our Star Wars stories.
Yes. So if
Will be a
people
couple
wanna
weeks of when we recorded it, not when it came
Yes,
out.
yes. 3 years from when they recorded it, actually.
Yes.
But if anyone wants to find out more about Zoe or Lizzy, StarWars.com has our Star Wars stories. Lizzy's family is at the end of season 1, and Zoe is episode 2 of season 2?
Yeah,
3.
episode 2 of
2?
season. Episode 2 of season 2 or 3. I think we were the third one
you might
filmed,
huh?
but the second. I think that was the third one filmed, but the second one released.
Right.
If I remember correctly.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
you're in
we were last one. We were very lucky. Last
Yes.
one filmed pre-pandemic. It was like early March, 2020.
Yes.
Right up to the wire. It was like because we filmed it on my spring break, and then went back to school, and it was like that week. They were like, "All right, go back home."
Right. So, and it was also the everyone on it is really good. Like you can find someone on every episode that you relate to. I'm very partial to your episode, but
it's a very lovely series.
And then they can reach you. They can contact you through Star Wars Geek Girl's website. If they
Yes, there's a contact form on Star Wars Geek Girl that you can just fill out on the website, and it'll pass an email along. You can also just email directly podcast@starwarsgeekgirl.com, starwarsgeekgirl.net, actually, I think.
Yes,
I think
.net.
the emails are starwarsgeekgirl.net.
Email is starwarsgeekgirl.net, not starwarsgeekgirl.com.
It's on the website if you go to the About page, and there's all that sort of things. Plus, we're on Twitter @SWGeekGirl, and the Facebook page is Star Wars Geek Girl.
And we had some helmet giveaways. Hopefully, we'll have some more this year for people that sign up for the newsletter.
Yes, we've given away a Captain Keeley helmet and a Wrecker from the Bad Batch helmet before.
Maybe you should have a poll for the next helmet that we should give away.
Yes. Yeah, so, and to be eligible for that, you need to sign up for the newsletter, which just gives you and shoots you an email when I post writing on the website. I promise it won't be lots of emails, like not one of those like when you sign up at a store for their like rewards thing, they email you like 3 times a day. I don't write that much.
Right. Well, so, but we're going to wrap this up. I was saying 15 minutes. We're going to come close to it. So closing off this Star Wars podcast day episode of Star Wars Geek Girl, what are some podcasts, Star Wars podcasts, or podcasters that you know? We know everyone should listen to your show, you and Lizzie's show. But do you have a list of podcasters or podcasts you'd like people to check out?
I do, obviously. So obviously the Rogue Rebels, which is Lizzie's family's podcast. I'm also very partial to Steele Saunders' Steel Wars, and he also usually has a lot of really fantastic guests that he talks to. There's also the Geeky Bubble podcast. They don't podcast very much. Like, they're a bit more sporadic and podcast about specific things, but it's always a pleasure to listen to them. I also really like Octu Radio, which is hosted by Alden Diaz, who is a very, very pleasant human being.
I have never listened to that one.
It's a very good one. It's fun.
Have you asked him
very
to be on
positive.
the show?
I've not. I ran into him in person because we'd followed each other for a while, and I ran into him at the Andor premiere.
Right. Well, you should ask. I know who he is now.
I really should. Yes. I'm trying to think. Dad Batch is a really funny podcast. Like going through my Twitter.
Father-Son Galaxy.
Father Son Galaxy is a fantastic, very positive podcast, and they do more than Star Wars. They do a lot of Marvel, a lot of everything. Very, very fantastic podcast. I feel bad if I miss anyone.
Well, I'm not saying to your favorite. Just some of the people to check out, and check out all the ones that are listed on Star Wars Podcast Day.
Yes.
Because I know like the Beskar Bucket's listed on there.
Beskar Bucket, the Inflatable Falcon every Wednesday.
Falcon.
Thank the makers.
Thank the makers. And then I started listening to the Armor Party, which is cool.
Yeah.
So
there's also, and I can say I have not gotten to sit down and listen to this yet, but there is For Light and Dice, which is a Star Wars Dungeons and Dragons actual play podcast set in the High Republic. I've heard like snippets of it and looked at like their character art and stuff, and it seems pretty cool.
And the gentleman that was from Anovos, he does a Rebels podcast.
Yes, Rebels. It's not Rebels Remember.
Rebel Recon?
That's a different thing. No, that was Pablo Hidalgo's.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, what is it?
But he does a Rebels podcast too. But any of those ones listed on Star Wars.
Well, I did a couple. Like, it would be probably 5-10 episodes back now. We did a podcast. I did a podcast with him, which was a very good one. And he plugs his podcast there. I just can't remember it off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, well, I just threw this on you for a quick one. So anyone listening. But if you can check out, thank you for listening. We're going to make this short. I'm going to try to end it under 19 minutes. Thanks for listening. It's the first time I've got to really be on your show.
Yeah.
So, but thanks for listening, and check out Star Wars Geek Girl. Check out StarWarsGeekGirl.com, and check out Lizzie's family, the Rogue Rebels podcast. And anything else before we go?
I can't really think of anything.
All right. Well, thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
And good night. May the Force be with you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.